Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Curare. I am here with Ian Sons, our Director of Physician Recruitment. If you've been listening to Coffee with Curare for a while, you might have just noticed that I gave Ian a new title, Director of Physician Recruitment. He was recently promoted. Congratulations, Ian.
Thank you, Jerry.
What are you going to do in your new role?
Well, I'm going to be responsible for training all of our employees, all of our new recruiters, helping to support them, helping to set goals, really make sure that we're providing the best service possible to our clients and the candidates that we work with.
Right, with the goal being long-term employees and good experienced physician recruiters. We're able to attract new recruiters and consultants to our team fairly easily because of the tools we have at hand and the amount of clients we have access to. We work with a lot of great clients that have a lot of great job opportunities. And today we're going to be talking about some of those jobs, not in particular, but about the job cycle in general. Right now, we're about 90 days out from mid-May. 90 days from today, I think, would be May 22nd. And right about then is when most kids are getting out of school and when a lot of practicing physicians or physicians with families might be really looking to make that move so they could get locked into the opportunity before their kids start school up in the fall and get integrated into the community. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Definitely, and I think part of what we want to try and help everyone understand is that there really is a timetable that you've got to keep in mind. I think setting expectations is really important in this process so people don't feel like they're being misled or having their time wasted. Open communication is key in this, and what we see a lot of times is that if people aren't aware of this process, how long it takes to schedule a phone interview, how long it takes to schedule a site visit, how long it takes to get a contract offer sent out to you. Sometimes they might be feeling, well, hey, are they really interested? Are they not? When in reality, it's just a function of the process and how long things often take. So a lot of times what we see is kind of from the origination of interest, where we are submitting a candidate's information to an employer, we're sending their CV. It can be anywhere from as little as maybe a couple days up to 2 weeks sometimes before we can get a phone call set up. Kind of the rule of thumb I see, Jerry, you might feel the same way, is usually the bigger the organization, the longer it takes to make those types of things happen.
Oh yeah, I mean, really what it boils down to is the more people that are involved. If you're dealing with a national organization that has hundreds of hospitals throughout the country and several different recruiters that reach out as the initial contact, it might take a week to coordinate that. Another situation could be where physicians are going on vacation. Right now, we're coming into the end of February. March is a heavy spring break period. Spring break occurs throughout the country from basically early March through mid-April. So that could impede the first initial contact from occurring for a few days or in some cases up to several weeks, unfortunately. So that could be one of the roadblocks that leads to the time frame slowing down on the front end.
Right, but one of the values in working with a firm like ours especially is we ordinarily have direct contact with the decision makers, and of course there are exceptions to that, but for the most part we're really able to expedite that process and get you on the phone with a potential employer quickly, so you've got the opportunity to learn. Is this something that can work for you or not? Can it meet your needs or not? Should you pursue it? Should you start blocking out time for a site visit, for contract negotiations, things like that?
And then it's the simple tips that we provide as well. When the phone call does occur, actually, one thing that some people don't realize on the physician side of things, the candidate side of things, is be prepared to give that employer times that you get out there for an interview. Right there on that initial first phone call. If you like what you see, or like what you're hearing rather, and the call's going well, and this is a position you could at least envision yourself considering as an opportunity, that's when you should go ahead and be forthcoming with interview dates, and go ahead and get a date set it right there on that initial phone call if possible, at least a tentative date, and that continues to push the process forward. And that's the key. You said earlier, managing expectations. And part of those expectations is what you could do as a candidate to help expedite your own process of hiring.
Right, I think always trying to be aware of what that next step might be and being assumptive about that, just like Jerry said, making sure that when you're on a phone interview, you have potentially some dates that you could visit in the next month or two. After you've gone on that interview, thinking about, okay, what are the next steps here? Making sure they understand that you're interested in pursuing the job. Really going on an interview, of course, is your opportunity to learn about the position, learn about some of those non-negotiable things like the personalities of the people that you're working with, do you like the facilities, etc. But one of the most important things to do is to go in there with the intention of securing an offer and being decisive. Because really, if you are on the fence about a job, how can you make a final decision without seeing what their contract is, without knowing specifically what they will offer you because that could be very different than what they might offer someone else. Clearly, if you go in, you really knock their socks off and they feel like you're the right person for the job, money's not going to stand in the way. You're going to get an extremely good offer. We can help to make sure that happens. But you really owe it to yourself to secure a contract, and at that point, you can really make an informed decision.
Right, and one other way Curare helps expedite that part of the process is before you even get on site, we have a pretty extensive pre-interview checklist that we go through to really get to know what the candidate's going to need, what the client could offer the candidate, and make sure those two things match up as closely as possible before you even get on campus. That way we've got some of that stuff already knocked out without even having to meet each other. Then you get to those intangibles that you were talking about, and that's when you really decide if it's a good match. You've already got the financials figured out, you got the benefits figured out, all of that's known up front. That's not always the case, but we try to make that so as much as possible. So once the interview is complete, it's just a matter of, hey, we've checked the references, we know what he needs, here's your offer, and he or she can make that decision on what they want to do at that point. But at that point, what happens many times is the contract will go into either a negotiation period or an attorney review, which again will slow down the process depending upon everybody's availability.
Right, so I think really talking about this whole process and the timing required, if you have your information submitted to an employer, like we said, maybe you're looking at a few days to a couple weeks. Chances are you're considering more than one position, so maybe we stretch that out to a month of kind of phone interviews. You start getting site visits scheduled. No one has an unlimited amount of time to take off of work and go on interviews, so we try to be as efficient as we can in coordinating that. But normally that process might take a couple months before you're able to kind of meet with everyone that you want to. After that, ideally you've got several options. At that point, you're asking for offers, you're negotiating contracts, so that might take another 30 to 60 days. So really building this all in, and in particular if you need to get privileges at the hospital, you need to get on all the insurance plans, all these things take some time. So really ensuring that you've got 90 to 120 days to accomplish not just kind of relocating your family and everything, but this is the process of securing a position. Usually it's going to take about that long. Now, are there exceptions to that? Of course. Sometimes things can happen quickly, and that's great if everybody knows what they want. But a lot of times it's about doing your due diligence and making sure that you feel confident in the choice that you're making.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I hope you realize the cycle a little bit better and call us, and we could get you started on a job search cycle quickly as possible, and we could make it go quicker than 90 days. We could extend it a little bit further. We could definitely have you in a new opportunity this summer, have your family moved, and have you in a nice new position. That'll do it for Coffee with Curare today. We'll see you next Thursday. You guys have a great weekend.